Have you all ever seen the movie Back to the Future? The movie came out 40 years ago, in the year 1985, so there are going to be some spoilers in this video, and well, I understand spoiler alerts for a movie that came out a month or even 2 months ago because people have busy schedules, but this video is going to give away the ending. I apologize, but like I said, it was 40 years ago. Anyway, the movie is about a teenage boy who travels back in time from the year 1985 to the year 1955. That's a 30-year time span. And in the year 1955, there's a scene toward the end where he starts playing music, and he starts playing kind of what was then the current music. So he kind of advances music 30 years within one song. And as he makes that transition, the other people in the crowd start getting a little bit freaked out. They start holding their ears. They start like kind of giving these weird looks on their face like, oh my God, what the heck is this? What the heck is this, right? And then of course there's the famous line where Marty says, "You're not ready for this yet, but your kids, they're gonna love it." And one of the most interesting things about this scene in this movie is it shows the progression of music style over 30 years kind of instantly, and how shocking that progression was to the people of 1955. The reason why I bring this up is because I've been giving this some thought a little bit lately about what would happen if one of us were to travel 30 years back in time right now, from the year 2025 to the year 1995. Think of any song that's popular at this given moment. Would it elicit the same response to the people of 1995 that Marty McFly got from the people of 1955? In other words, did the last 30 years of musical progression change that terribly much? Did we create new styles? Did we kind of do a lot of things different? And my hypothesis is no. My hypothesis is that if you were to look at the top 10 songs from this particular year, or I will show you the top 10 current songs right now, I don't really think any of them would freak out the people of 1995. If anything, a couple of them might bore some people or confuse some people. Not as much as whole like, oh my God, I'm shocked, like the people in the movie Back to the Future. Well, why is that? And there's probably a lot of reasons for that, but one of the concerns I have is around creativity. So 1955 to 1985 was a time when we did not have the internet in our lives at all. Well, there's probably a few people in top secret or really high-powered jobs that were using it for work toward the end of that period, but 1995 was really the year that people started getting the internet into their homes, let alone the way we have access to the internet 24/7 now. And of course, boredom breeds creation. So when I think about this time period from 1955 to 1985, I think of so many periods of time where people just start experimenting with things out of boredom. Like just a bunch of people in their garage, and they all have instruments out, and they're like, hey, what if we start playing like this? What if we start playing like that, right? And then all of a sudden you have all these new genres. You have acid rock, you have heavy metal, you have hair metal, glam metal, arena rock. And then of course, the biggest invention of that particular 30-year time period was hip hop music. And hip hop music would become, what's still to this day a predominant genre in music. Even a lot of that dance electronic music that we see right now had their origins during that time period in some of the disco and the early disco stuff that people kind of generated. I think most dance electronic music is a derivative of disco. The last 30 years, of course, we've had a little bit of music innovation. Like EDM became like the EDM that we know, even though the first reference to EDM was actually in the 1980s, but it does feel very different. It definitely progressed as a genre, but there just hasn't been nearly as much creativity. And I'm postulating that there's not as much creativity because, well, we're all just so scattered. We're all scattered about, and we're all so distracted, and we can't really focus. A study by Microsoft 10 years ago has shown that our attention span has dropped by over 30% to an attention span that's less than a goldfish. In all honesty, how are we supposed to really, really be creative and really, really come up with new genres of music, let alone new genres of art, movies, and everything else, if we're constantly distracted? Which is one of the many reasons why I think the world would be a much better place if we just spent a little bit less time glued to our phones, glued to our laptops, and a little bit more time out engaged in the real world. And God forbid, a little bit more time bored, where we're going to be like, I don't know what to do, but then come up with that creative idea that might solve a problem or might just be artistically significant.